Education at UC Davis was the essential foundation for everything I bring to the table here. It was an expansion of my mind and an introduction to a culture that I try to bring every day here to the team.
I was talking to you earlier in the car about how science really has revolutionized the sport of cycling. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, everything that we touch, there is some science involved in it, from the bicycle to the food we eat to the way we train. But it's not just the end products per se, but it's the methodology. It's the way you go about doing things. By taking a scientific approach to everything we do, we try to test answers in the field, we try to come up with questions, and we try to answer them. And so, in so much that we are discovering on the fly, we have an organized way to discover.
Of all the professional athletes in the world today, which ones essentially are most studied and most analyzed?
Well, from my perspective, my frame of reference, I really believe that professional cyclists are the most studied, the most analyzed, the most tested. Part of that is because in the laboratory, it's very easy to measure power output, and it's very easy to make physiological measurements on cyclists, or that mode of exercise is it lends itself to scientific study. And so, you know, this is a really interesting environment because of that.
Cyclists certainly know, as do other athletes, the importance of physical training. They know they need to do that to get in shape. How difficult is it to get them to believe in the science of it?
It's not too difficult at all. I think that our guys are exceptionally intelligent. They're really rational. They want reasons for why we do things. And in so much that science can give them a reason for why they do things, they embrace that and they go about their activity with a lot of confidence. And I think that the other part about being an athlete is you've got to have that confidence. You have to have that belief in what you're doing. If you can use science to inspire that belief, then you've got a powerful tool.
So you really are the team scientist, you're the nutritionist, you're the dietitian, you're in many ways the coach. You're a lot of things to the Garmin Slipstream team. How much of it is motivation and motivating these guys?
It's all motivation. You know, when I talk about being a scientist, we're talking about developing tools or techniques to actually encourage the guys to believe in what they do. And so it's all motivation, right? At the end of the day, these guys have to have that deep desire. They have to have that want. If they don't have it, then it's all for naught. So we try to balance all the technical stuff with the human element of the team, and understanding the human element, catering to the human element is, I think, vital and essential to this whole entire process.
With the Amgen Tour starting really the first stage on Sunday, what's it like? How many calories do these guys burn up in one of these stages? And is it the most food demanding sport there is?
Because of the duration, because it's non-impact, because these guys can continuously do work for the length that they do, it is metabolically one of the most demanding sports out there. These guys will on average burn about 3,500 to 4,000 calories per stage. I think on the longest stage here, I'm guessing that these guys will approach 5,000 calories of energy burn while on the bicycle. On the shortest day and the time trial day, it may be about 700 to 700 or so.
So how many calories then do they eat in a day?
So you can add about 3,000 calories on top of that. And so on average, these guys might be consuming anywhere from, say, 5,000 to 8,000 calories at most.
Now, they're not drinking milkshakes and eating Big Macs.
No.
They're on a prescribed diet, a diet that you have prescribed for them.
Yeah.
How important is that diet, and what can you tell us about it?
Diet is everything. It's the fuel that we put in our bodies. We have a chef who comes in. We have a whole menu that's already set. Part of it is knowing that the food is just good tasting, wholesome, nutritious. The convenience of having that food immediately after the bicycle race, so there's no hesitation, there's no waiting to begin the recovery process. We tend to use a fairly gluten-free diet to try to decrease the inflammatory response associated with gluten, even though a lot of the guys are not allergic to it. Outside of that, it's a really sensible whole food-based diet. You know, I mean, I try to encourage the guys to try to make sure that they're always eating real food, as long as it's something that you can see, identify, simple ingredients. That's what we're looking at in terms of their diet.
Are there any magic foods that you prescribe for quick energy gain?
Rice. I mean, we eat a lot of rice. We eat mochi rice, we eat sushi rice, we eat medium grade cal roast rice. I mean, these guys can identify rice grains like, you know, some people can identify snowflakes. Rice, lots of rice.
What about potatoes?
Potatoes, lots of eggs, lots of fresh fruits and veggies.
I would assume that every pro cycling team has their nutritionist and their expert in training and that kind of thing. What makes you stand out among the rest?
I have no idea. You know, I mean, I don't see myself as a nutritionist per se. I'm a sports physiologist, in so much that nutrition is a huge aspect of that. I pay attention to it. I just try to do my best. You know, I don't aspire to do anything more. I find it sometimes a little odd or confusing that I'm even at this level, but it's just something I love.
Do you think we, as a society of people, have really kind of really reached to how to maximize an athlete's potential? Do we have enough science there yet?
You know, as a culture, we haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg in terms of the scientific knowledge that we can apply to sport. We are infants in that domain, and so I think there's so much more to learn. There's so much more to discover, especially in terms of practice, applying science to daily practice. That's a huge issue, and it's a huge problem. I mean, it's a cultural divide, and I think that we do our best to try to close that gap. There's still so much to learn, though.
Have you seen cyclists, Alan, who are off the charts in all the tests that you give them, but they maybe not quite have the winning edge? And
Absolutely.
What is the difference there?
Yeah, you know, I think one of the problems with science is that science can't yet predict the X factor. Science can't yet predict the winning edge. I've seen plenty of examples where guys test amazing in the laboratory and they're on par with the, you know, Tour de France winners, etc., but they may not have the edge in racing. There's more to cycling than just physiology. There is tactics, there is self-composure, there's confidence. There's so much that plays into it that it's challenging, at times difficult, but still, you know, so interesting, and why we do it, to try to reach that little piece of perfection.
Part of what you also dictate is adequate rest for these riders.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, a lot of people ask me all the time if I worry about overtraining my guys or if we're doing too much work. And I think the answer is simply no, that there is no such thing as overtraining, just under-resting. It's what you do off the bicycle that probably matters more. I think that the human machine is really smart. You can do a whole lot of work and the body will know when to stop. But if you don't get enough sleep afterwards, if you don't eat the right stuff afterwards, if you don't get adequate rest and the body doesn't recover, then you're going to be at a real deficit, and that's when overtraining happens.
How much do you have to document all this stuff? Is that how you improve from race to race? Do you tweak your training techniques throughout the race year?
Absolutely. You know, for me, I try to learn as much from the athletes as possible. I try to encourage them to keep as much information as possible. We try to do a good job in terms of capturing the training information from the power meters, from our power taps. All of that kind of feeds into the machine, and we start to learn year by year by year, using that reference, how to improve.
Talk to me a little bit about the wattage and how you measure energy output.
Sure. So on every bicycle that we use in training and racing, we have the Cyclops power tap, which is a rear hub device loaded with a torque tube that has strain gauges around it that measures how much force the guys applied to the rear wheel, and we can derive power from that. So it's a real measurement of power output. It's not an estimate of power output. That goes to onboard computer that stores that information every second. After the ride, we can download it and we can assess exactly what happened during the ride. It gives us the numbers and the information that tells us exactly what happens in racing and training, and in so much that what we want to do is mimic racing in training, we can come closer and closer to meeting the specific demands of the sport.
So would you say that instrument really becomes the black box of cycling?
Absolutely. That instrument, that power tap, is our black box. It's what records everything that happens on the bicycle, and it's how we actually can get objective information so that we can improve the performance of the guys.
Now, you obviously are extremely knowledgeable about this sport. Why aren't you on the team as a racer?
I have no desire, right? We talk about science and we talk about everything that goes into being a professional athlete. I think the most important thing is desire, and I enjoy riding my bicycle. I think I derive as much satisfaction after an hour of riding my bike as these guys might after finishing a day in the Tour de France. And for me, that simple joy of being on the bicycle is all I really need. And so, I think in life it's about doing what you love at whatever level. I love working with guys. I love coaching, teaching. So, this is my niche.
I just want to finally touch on your mission of racing 100% clean. And Slipstream has one of the most strictest anti-doping programs among any of the cycling teams. Does that put an extra burden on your cyclists to participate in all the testing requirements needed to race this way?
One of the things that I'm most proud of being associated with this team is our anti-doping stance, our clean sport stance. And it's difficult. It is a real commitment. It's a serious commitment. I don't think that people appreciate what these guys have to go through in terms of getting tested, in terms of invasion of privacy. It's a constant daily chore. They constantly have to update their whereabouts. They're constantly being looked at, tested, blood drawn, etc. And it's tough, but at the end of the day, it's well worth it. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way, because we can step away from this. We can tell people, look them straight in the eye and say, we're doing this clean. And that's a powerful feeling.
You mentioned to me earlier about how when their heads hit the pillow, they can sleep with a clean conscience.
Sure.
Not all teams, I guess, are able to do that.
I hope that they are. I hope that all of our competitors are sleeping well at night. And, when people talk about doping being an advantage, I say it absolutely is not. I think that is a very fearful response to say that you have to cheat to win. I think that people who do cheat are scared, and I think that if my guys are up against a scared athlete, they're going to win because they're not scared and they have all the confidence in their preparation. The thing about doping and cheating is that the human machine is a really smart machine, and if you start to tweak with little parts without keeping the whole in mind, I think you're going to really screw things up. It's like putting bigger exhaust in your car without changing the intakes. Or changing the tires or wheels without fixing the suspension. You need to look at the whole. And when our guys finish a training ride and their heads hit that pillow, they sleep like little babies at night because they know they've done everything right and they know they have nothing to hide.
Do you think eventually that pro cycling will be totally clean?
I don't know. The only thing that I can control is what my guys do. I have utmost confidence in my guys. I can guarantee you that they're clean athletes, and that makes me really, really proud. Whether or not the whole entire sport cleans up, that's like asking if people ever cheat on their spouses. There are bigger institutions with probably bigger problems than we have in cycling.
Good, very good. Like it.
I got a question.
Yeah.
An answer to Paul. But after doing this and motor pacing these guys for 6 hours a day and worried about their safety and being in the trenches, do you still find that you still have a love for this great sport?
That's an interesting question. The work involved in professional cycling is really, really tough, and there are times when certainly I think everyone in our staff and the athletes feel burnt out, they feel tired, they feel like this just isn't worth it. But for whatever reason, we keep on coming back, and I think that it's the simple things. It's finding joy in all the little things during the day, whether it be, the satisfaction of finishing a long, hard training ride or just sitting at the table with the guys joking around. I think there's pleasure in everything, and so I try not to worry about the big picture too much or about what we have on the line or what our goals are all the time. It's just fun being out with the guys, and for right now it's sustaining. Whether I continue to do this for the rest of my life, who knows, but I think life is full of possibilities.